does an aspiring exercise physiologist think about, such a question or such a predicament? I don't know. I think it's dang stupid. Hi, great people of the world. I was under the impression that a lot of people, they want to be big, but they also want to have strong muscles as well. So I see a lot of, power building or, combining powerlifting and bodybuilding. It's a good idea, but unfortunately people don't understand, let alone one good way to train, but, trying to combine two ways, it's sometimes not executed in a great way. And here's what I think. There's a few problems with that approach. And the first thing that comes to mind as an exercise physiologist student is it violates the specificity principle. It is basically, if you want to get good at something, you should do that thing. And the more things you try to get good at the same time, it will make you okay in both, but not the best at one thing. So it's rarely optimal for that reason, because stimulating strength gains and hypertrophy gains are not completely, but it's different enough to where it isn't like synergistic to one another. Now, that maybe sounds weird to some of you, because usually big people are pretty strong, and I'll get to that. And the thing is, right, stimulating strength has to do with loading up heavy and, basically making your muscles learn to contract in a way that exerts a lot of force, or you learn to get strong, you learn to contract hard. The thing is, stimulating muscle volume or, hypertrophy or being big, that has to do with the tension on the muscle opposed and the time that it is opposed to, and a lot of different factors. We have training the muscles close to failure. Now, is that important for strength gains as well? Well, not necessarily. It's not maybe as important to train to absolute muscular failure when you're learning your nervous system to be strong. So there's a difference here already, as you see. And there's also a difference in training progression, because when it comes to getting strong, especially when it comes to peaking, we actually lower the volume as we get closer and closer to a competition. But even if you just want to get strong in general, doing more after you can't push a certain amount of weight will not benefit you in any way in strength. But going too early again will leave some hypertrophy gains on the table. And the right way, I would say, as opposed to training progression in hypertrophy, it is to slowly put on more and more weight to oppose more tension, but also do more and more sets in a given amount of time, and then you deload, you get sensitive again to the stimulus, and then you repeat, right? You go from, let's say you have 10 sets per muscle group per week, right? And the next week you try 11, 12 sets that week of that given muscle group. So there's a difference there as well when it comes to getting as big as you can or as strong as you can. There is, however, I wanted to mention as well that, having a strength phase or a peaking phase or a hypertrophy phase, not phase, but phase, right? You know what I mean? They also have different, of course, impacts, because you can train your accessory movements in 5 to 10 rep range and grow a ton of muscle, or even 5 to 10 range in bench and squat and deadlift, and still grow a ton of muscle. There's nothing inherently wrong about that. When it comes to peaking, 3 to 1 reps, that's where it's not inherently wrong as well. You won't lose muscle, but it's hard to say that it is optimal for gains, because can you imagine doing enough volume to satisfy your hypertrophy needs by doing heavy sets of 3 to 2 reps? I mean, your nervous system is going to be fucked all the way off if you try that. And the other thing is if you have a life, you're not going to opting for that way of stimulating hypertrophy isn't time efficient, right? The stimulus that you get per time unit won't be optimal at all. So with that being said, we know that hypertrophy is stimulated pretty much equally at the low rep ranges as the high rep ranges. And we're talking high is 20 to 30 reps usually. North of 30 reps, going outside the range for hypertrophy. because you have to pose a certain amount of tension to for even the body to even want to respond to that training. However, a caveat to that is that it is possible for beginners. So, because as I said, beginners can do fuck all, and that's true as well when it comes to hypertrophy, because or you know, power building. They can just do whatever and it will stimulate. You will be so far from your potential that you're gonna grow as a weed anyway. You can just look at a weight and grow. So that's not a problem. I highly recommend that you like the video if it has been helpful to you so far, and you know, it will help it spread to more people, so thank you for doing that. But also I would recommend, when it comes to combining powerlifting and bodybuilding, is to have certain blocks or phases that you focus on one thing, because then you can get really good at that thing and you put that on hold, and you get really good at that thing and you put that on hold, and you get really good at that thing. It's like talking to, you know, if you're going to talk to a bunch of Japanese people and then you're going to talk to a bunch of Americans, you're not going to be like, so I'm just going to combine the two at the same time and, you know, speak every, like, that's not impossible. How can you even speak two languages at the same time? You know, that's weird. So first you say what the message to one certain amount of people, and then you switch to the next. That's basically the best analogy that I've heard. I think Mike Israel actually coined that one. How would that look like in real life? And that it will look like this. You have a certain amount of muscle. You can choose to have a block where you focus on getting that muscle that you already have strong AF. And then you can either have a peaking phase and try for a 1 rep max or compete. And then after that, to get even stronger, you have to build new muscle. Think of it like a car engine, right? You can modify it as much as you like, but at one point, if you want to go faster, you're going to need a bigger engine, right? So muscles in this case are the engine. So you have to take a block and you have to utilize every tool you have to get as big as you can, you know, utilizing high reps and low reps, and, you know, get jacked. And by the way, if you're worried about losing your kind of strength adaptations, you kind of will for a short period of time, but you will gain that back, and even more so when you get bigger, you know, because just having more muscle will, you won't notice that you're getting weaker, because the muscle fibers themselves will help you to push more weight. So it isn't something to, you know, worry about. And then when you go into the phase of actually training heavy, well, then you can when you go training heavy and, you know, making that muscle strong, you'll find that you're much stronger than you were with the muscle you had 7-8 months back. So that is, I think, a much faster way to do it. Basically, if you have two people and one tries to do both at the same time and one does one thing at a time and does it really good, he will get better. And if you're wondering about, you know, what about combining cardio and bodybuilding, right? I see a lot of people do that, and even I do that. And the difference is that, you know, I don't train cardio to become a cardio-like athlete. I just do it for my health. So I can basically not give it as much of an effort as I'm doing bodybuilding, basically. That's the difference. I don't care that I'm not getting optimal results on my cardio, and really just doing it to stay healthy. And by the way, if you want to know my thoughts on cardio, you can watch that video here, and I'll see you there. That rhymed.